All right, hello and welcome to this video. Uh, for this video, to make everything clear, um, I'll be continuing from another video. So on the on the Simply Spanish YouTube channel, what you'll see is that there's a part one and there's a part two for nouns. So this is the part two for nouns. They go together. So trust me that you're not going to understand this part much unless you've seen that part, or at least you understand the concepts in that first video. All right, so let's go straight into the video. So today we're looking at plural nouns and the indefinite article. So last time we looked at nouns and the definite article. So we're going to be looking at the plural nouns and the indefinite articles. So let's get right into this lesson. Welcome to everyone who's watching. Okay, so let's get straight into it, right? So we're gonna go simply into it. The details. First, we're gonna talk about pluralization, um, and we're gonna talk about the rules for pluralizing nouns in Spanish. Okay, so there are four main rules. So let's look at them one by one, and there's at least one example here that we can break down and then use for the future. So if the noun ends with a vowel, except the I with the accent mark and the U with an accent mark. This is a strange rule, but don't pay too much attention to it. Don't read into it too much. Most of the time, if it does have a vowel at the end, it's going to usually have to add an S. So this rule, we add an S to make it plural. So we have the word la palabra, and la palabra really literally means the word. The word palabra is word in English. Las palabras, the words, would be the plural of la palabra. We add an S, it makes it plural. Please note as well the definite article, which is la, changing from la to las. Of course, you can see that, right? We spoke about that in last class, in last video. Okay, so the second rule is if the noun ends with a consonant, add es. So we have the word ley, la ley. Ley means law, the law. And so we want to pluralize that. We add the es, las leyes, leyes. So the laws. We pluralize ley by adding an es because it ends in a consonant. Okay. All right. Now, for the third rule, if the noun ends with a Z, change it to a C and add ES. Okay? Might seem long-winded, but it's pretty simple when you really break it down. So we have the word el lápiz. El lápiz. Now, el lápiz means pen. So we want to multiply these pens. We want to pluralize it. So of course, the L turns to los, and then we change that Z into C and add the ES, los lápices. Okay? And so just like that, we've pluralized that. Okay? And this works for basically all of the nouns that ends with Z. We follow this pattern. Now, the final option is if the noun ends with es or if it ends with an s, it does not change in the plural. It does not change in the plural. It stays the same. El lunes, los lunes. Right? We have some examples like that in English, of course, and stuff like that. Right? So um, lunes has an S. We don't need to add another ES or anything like that. It's already basically plural. You can just change the definite article just to make sure you're indicating that, it is a plural noun. So, el lunes, los lunes. So I hope that that is clear. These four rules you should definitely memorize. Uh, I'm sure the easiest one out of all of them will definitely be the ending of a vowel. It's very easy. All you have to do is add an S. Of course, I kind of rank them in not in a specific way, but definitely the easiest ones are the first two, adding an S and adding an ES, right? So let's move forward. So we want to look at nouns that have exceptions. Now, these ones are just really strange ones that I've done some research on, and they're really strange. Um, I can't really explain it, but they break the rules, and there's not really much of a reason why, except they are exceptions or irregular. So el mamut is los mamuts. So they add an S instead of an ES. I don't know why. That's just weird Spanish form. Same thing with el tic, los tics, and el jabalí, los jabalíes. So that's something that you can pay attention to. There are a few exceptions that do exist. Now, these aren't words that you're going to be using on a day-to-day basis, not really. El mamut means mammoth. El tic means tick, of course, and then el jawali means pig, specifically a wild boar or a wild pig. Um, so these aren't words that you would use in your daily vocabulary. It's just nice to know that they do exist and there are some exceptions out there, so that you can be aware of. All right, so taking a pause here, what is the plural of tassa? Now, tassa, as you can see from this picture, is cup, specifically mug. It's usually used for a mug that usually has some kind of handle made out of ceramic or glass, something like that. That's the type of cup that I usually see. Okay, so the question is, what is the plural of this word? Tasa, right? Of course, we know from what we previously discussed in those four rules. First off, it ends, and that's the trick. We have to look at what the word ends in. It ends in a vowel, A. So because it ends in A, we just simply add an S. And so the answer would be tasas, right? Makes sense? All right. So let's continue on. So now we're going to look at indefinite articles. Artículos indefinidos. Artículos indefinidos. Indefinite articles. So these ones are similar to definite articles, right? In the sense of they have the same kind of pattern, but they're used in different ways, of course. So an indefinite article in Spanish refers to an unspecific noun. Um, or an article of an unspecific noun, right? There are four types of indefinite articles in Spanish. We have, and of course, you're going to see the same ones in the previous video: masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, feminine plural. It's always those four different states. I like to call them states because you have to switch between, okay, is it masculine plural? Is it feminine singular? All of those things. So think of it as states. So these four options here: un, una, unos, unas, right? So let's look at the examples here and see what they mean. Un hombre, a man. Una mujer, a woman. Feminine singular, masculine singular. You're seeing the pattern now, how it makes sense? Unos hombres, some men, right? An amount of men that's not specified. Unas mujeres, some women, right? So the question is like when to use indefinite articles. So this is a question that we already know as English speakers. We kind of know in our head, but just to specify for Spanish so that you can understand some of these examples when it's used, especially when listening and hearing it, why it's being used, and how you can interpret it and understand it for yourself. So indefinite articles are used to refer to one individual out of a group, un, una. So a man, a woman. You can identify one person or one thing out of a group. right? We say an elephant. We say an apple, right? Or to define the quantity of a noun without using any numbers. Unos hombres, some men. So that's an amount of men. I didn't say 20, I didn't say five. I said an amount that's more than one, but we don't know the exact number. And finally, and to refer to non-specific or unknown noun. And to refer to non-specific unknown noun. So again, a man, we're not specifically talking about the man or a specific man. It's kind of unknown. We don't know exactly what it is or what man it is, right? So those are kind of the uses of indefinite articles. Okay, so looking at these examples, I kind of purposely left off the translation for this one, um, but I think it's interesting. Um, these sentences and how in Spanish how these are used. So for the first sentence, it says hay una botella de agua. Most people would say, "Oh, agua, I can recognize what this is, water," right? This question is asking, is there a bottle of water? You have a bottle of water somewhere, right? Is there a bottle of water? Una botella de agua, right? When we talked about specifying one specific thing out of a group, I mean, there very well may be a case of bottles of water, but right now I'm asking for one specifically. Is there one? Is there a bottle of water that possibly I could get? We don't know. Hay una botella de agua. This state is feminine singular. Tienes unas gatas. Tienes unas gatas. Do you have an amount of cats, which is some cats? Do you have some cats? Do you have cats? Right? This is understood as, do you have an amount of cats that's more than one that is not specified? Right? Do you have more than one cats? And um, obviously, it's an amount we don't know specifically, but the question is pretty vague, right? So, unas, which is the feminine plural. This next question is, en el futuro, or statement, sorry, en el futuro voy a comprar un carro. En el futuro voy a comprar un carro. Now, in the future, it says, in the future, I am going to buy a car, un carro. This is the most important part of the sentence, right? Un carro. I'm going to buy a car. We are also specifying out of a group. And at the same time, we're not giving too much details about um, the car. We're not saying this specific type of car. We are talking about car in general, but the car still is pretty unknown, right? So if I was to say the car, I would probably be referring to a specific car. Um, in this case, we can just talk about some car that is exists, could be any brand, could be any kind of thing, but it's a car, right? Any kind of color, any kind of details about this car, but it's a car, right? So I hope you're understanding with this explanation the usage of indefinite articles and how, like in language, it's very useful to use these in our speech. When can you use these? When you want to say something about objects in Spanish, right? Okay. And the final sentence, necesito unos papeles. Necesito unos papeles. I need some paper. I need an amount of paper that is more than one. Give me a couple, give me a few, right? Um, so some and few and is also synonymous in that way. Um, so I need a few papers. I need some papers, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be some specifically that word, but the idea of unos in Spanish is an idea of an amount that is not counted specifically, but is definitely greater than one, because we already have that kind of a specification of un papel, which is a paper. We can um, identify a paper, but unos is always like a few, a couple, some, right? So that's just an idea of how we use indefinite articles. So what I would say is, you can always look back on this video. You can always look up a lot of sentences and examples that show indefinite articles. Um, I do have a few quizzes with indefinite articles, and I will link one below in the description so that you can at least have one practice of indefinite articles. There's a lot on the internet as well. So I hope that this video helped to um, explain more about nouns and how we use indefinite articles, how we pluralize nouns, because these are really important in your daily speech. All right. Thank you and bye.